Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. The first story. Family's new car became the center of a comedic battle when Dad welded the driver's seat, forcing Mom to get creative with pedal extensions. The second story. Shuttle driver embarked on a 700-mile U-turn, following a VIP group leader's absurdly misguided instructions. The third story. Manager mandated in-person delivery of doctor's notes. One employee took it to the next level and introduced themselves to top company executives during their bout with stomach flu. And the first story is just a little height difference. The characters: Mom, Dad, Uncle Ernie. The story: I can remember this event clearly. The family laughed about this for years. The year was 1985. Dad just brought home a brand new car, a 1985 Caprice Classic. Mom and Dad picked it out together weeks ago and he just picked it up from the dealership. We went for a drive so they could show off the new car to us kids and some close friends who were excited for my parents. Dad had an old half-ton he drove to work and back, so the car was left with Mom most days. Some days she drove it, but others she didn't need to go anywhere, so it sat in the driveway. Now here I'll mention there's a huge height difference between Mom and Dad. Dad was roughly 198.12 centimeters, 6'5", and Mom was roughly 157.48 centimeters, 5'2". Needless to say, the driver's seat needed to be moved for each of them. Dad got petty one day and pulled one of his little pranks on Mom. He took the car to work one day, which was not unusual if he didn't feel like driving his truck. While he had it at work, he welded the driver's seat where he feels comfortable and never said a thing to Mom. Probably 2 or 3 days later, Mom had to go to a doctor's appointment or something like it. When she got in the car, she tried adjusting the seat, but it never budged. She came in the house and asked me to go look to see if I can figure out what was wrong. As soon as I looked at the track where the seat should slide, I see the weld. I pointed it out to Mom. When Mom got mad, she always looked like she just ate 30 lemons and she gets quiet. When she went quiet when I was a kid, I knew it was about to go down. She went into her bedroom and grabbed pillows to put behind her so she could reach the pedals. By the time she got to the appointment, she had the most sour look on her face. We left the appointment and I thought we would be heading home, but we started in a different direction. I didn't dare ask where. I just sat back for the ride and shut my mouth. After a few kilometers, I realized we were heading to Uncle Ernie's place. This is where we brought Dad's work truck to get fixed and Mom's uncle. Mom got out of the car and showed Uncle Ernie where Dad welded the seat all the way back. He kinda giggled and asked what she wanted him to do about it. Mom told him to cut off the gas and brake pedals and weld something on them so her feet can reach the pedals with the seat all the way back. After some time, measurements, and welding, it was done and we went home. It wasn't until the next night when Dad was heading to the Legion like he did most nights. Within a minute, he came bursting through the door, ripping about the pedals. Mom just looked at him with a look of amusement, which made him angrier. He asked where she got the idea to mess around with a brand new car. Again, with the same look as before, she answered, "If you didn't weld the seat to your position, but I drive the car more and can't reach the pedals, what am I supposed to do? Now, if you want to take your truck tonight, you can take the car tomorrow and remove the welding from the seat first so it moves right, then you can take the extension off the pedals." That's exactly what he did, too. Do you think he would learn his lesson? Not my dad. He always said, "I'm not stubborn and I will fight to the death to prove it." The second story is head north to cross the border. Are you sure? If you insist. This didn't happen to me. It happened to my dad in the late 90s when we were living in the Detroit metro area. Locals and those who are astute geographically already know where this is headed. The best bedtime story he ever told me. Dad used to drive for a popular shuttle bus company based in Wayne County International Airport. A VIP group from Phoenix was assigned to him. The VIP package was all-inclusive. Any place, any detour that the group wants until they reach the final destination specified in the job order. The company got paid by the mile and Dad's pay structure was base salary plus overtime. He made a killing on tips alone as he was very professional, personal, and a neat freak. His rig was always spotless. So he picks up the VIP group, party of 9. Everyone was very friendly and chatty even though they were just on a red-eye. Pleasantries all around as he was loading up everyone's luggage except for the group leader. Let's call him Napoleon, as in Bonaparte. Short man syndrome, Napoleon complex. Napoleon looked peeved for no apparent reason. One gal in the group, let's call her Eva, who was distantly related to Napoleon, even pulled Dad aside to apologize in advance because she knew Napoleon will be rude and abrasive. This is how he operates, she said. Once everyone is seated, Dad makes the safety announcements, asks everyone to buckle up, asks everyone to make sure their US passports can be easily accessed, etc. He asks if the group wants a quick pit stop for food, drinks, souvenir shopping, etc. before heading to their final destination, which was their hotel located just across the US-Canada border in Windsor, Ontario. Dad was used to people flying to Detroit then crossing the border to go to Windsor, as this was much more economical, especially for large groups. Before Dad could finish talking, Napoleon cuts him off. "I'm in charge of this group and I'll speak for everyone. No detours, no scenic routes, strictly point A to point B. We'll need to stop every hour or so because Eve here will need to use the ladies' room due to her bladder issues. I want you to fill up your gas tank while she's at it because I do not want any unnecessary stops." Needless to say, Eve was humiliated. What can she do? Napoleon is her good old distant uncle. Before Dad could interject, he was about to point out that the Detroit-Windsor tunnel was less than a half hour away and border traffic was very, very light. Remember, late 90s, pre-9/11 terrorist attacks. Napoleon inflects his voice, talking over my dad, and says, "Via northbound I-275, westbound I-96, northbound Route 23, and then northbound I-75 the rest of the way." I approximated the route that Napoleon specified due to the fact that some of the highway interchanges were different back in those days, in case you want a visual on Google Maps or MapQuest. Dad was going to talk some sense into Napoleon but was again cut off. Again voice inflected, period. Dad does the addendum on their trip ticket, has Napoleon sign and date the document. His maliciously compliant road trip has commenced. Once the shuttle had gotten onto the interstate, Dad turns on the cockpit voice recorder to document everything, and radios the office to inform the dispatcher on duty of the addendum, making sure he spoke slowly, clearly, and loud enough for Napoleon to hear everything. He then turns to Napoleon, informing him that they'll be out of radio range soon, and the addendum will be final and binding at that point. Napoleon says with an irritated tone, "Everything that I've instructed you to do has been meticulously planned and premeditated. I expect you to execute it without prejudice." Dad politely nods his head in affirmation. Instead of going from point A to point B, a mere half-hour commute, they're now en route to making a gigantic 700-mile, 10-hour U-turn. Napoleon didn't realize that Windsor, Ontario is south of Detroit, Michigan. Thankfully, they ended up not completing this trip. Details upcoming. On their first pit stop at Sunoco in Flint, Eva, after visiting the ladies' room, approached my dad as he was pumping gas. She says, "Sorry for Napoleon's demeanor. We all hate him, but he's the boss." My dad, feeling a little bit of guilt, tells Eva that they're in the early stages of a gigantic U-turn. Eva's eyes bulged in disbelief. After gathering herself, she instructs Dad to head back south and take the fastest route to their hotel, and not inform Napoleon of the change. My dad was happy to do it, but their company will still be charged for the time and distance of their giant U-turn per the addendum. Eva said to not worry about that, as she will inform their office of Napoleon's blunder once they're settled at the hotel. Eva was now a happy and willing accomplice. Dad sensed that Eva had long been waiting for an opportunity like this to put Napoleon in his proper place. The rest of the commute was uneventful. Napoleon was oblivious to the direction that the shuttle bus was headed at this point as he was busy reading magazines. At the hotel drop-off, Eva asked Dad for the office number. Dad promptly gives her his business card. 4 days later, Dad picks up the same group. Eva had phoned the office requesting the same driver for the return leg. This time, they were a party of 8. Napoleon had been instructed to fly back the day after their arrival after Eva was reassigned to be their team's interim lead. Eva handed Dad a $400 tip, $600 in 2021 inside a white envelope. Each remaining team member chipped in $50 each. They shook Dad's hand. Apparently, Eva filled everyone in on what Napoleon had erroneously planned. Eva explained with a wry smile on the way to Detroit that Dad's company will be paid in full per the trip addendum. Napoleon became the office idiot, was never again given the task of leading a team. He ended up getting fired after a month. I think the situation influenced the decision to fire him. Dad's now retired, living with his current wife in Toledo, just across the Michigan-Ohio border. Eva is now my realtor. She helped me and my husband find our dream home here in Glendale, Arizona. The third story is, I really have to shake everyone's hand? Okay. This happened like 15 years ago in Germany. I was in my apprenticeship in a big coal mine, once the pride of Germany industry. We were 50 apprentices every year. Here you have to do 3 years apprenticeship before you become an electrician, for example. And my company employed around 4,000 people at the time. The coal sector in Germany was in decline, and it was cheaper to import coal from China, Poland, or Australia. So the company got big subsidies by the state, and it showed. Stuff wasn't replaced. People had to do more shifts. All in all, there was an atmosphere, especially in management, of having to prove you're still useful in a sense. While most people were pretty chill, retirement plans for the older workers were solid, and us younger people knew we weren't going to work there long term from the beginning. The upper management still wanted to show they were the big shots. So one day all apprentices called into a big meeting with the top manager of our section, and he told us we had too much sick days. In Germany, you can have as many sick days as you need, and you get them paid for them in full. There are some other things about pay and sick days in Germany not important to this story, but if you want to nitpick or learn more, just read up on German labor laws. It's fun, I promise. He even had a full PowerPoint presentation with how many days we had. What was the reason? There were charts and figures and such stuff. The whole management spiel. In the end, his idea was that from now on, all we had to give our sick notice to him personally in his office at the first day of absence. This is kinda not 100% legal, I guess. I'm no lawyer, but we were all young people and had little to no knowledge about this. Why he wanted to do it this way was clear. He thought many of us were faking their sickness to get a long weekend or whatever. Up to then, you only had to phone in when you were sick and could either send your doctor's notice by mail or bring it in and leave it at the office receptionist. Wasn't good enough anymore, I guess. Directly the week after the meeting, I got a bad stomach bug. Don't ask me what it was. Maybe I ate something bad or it was just the season, no idea. After I spray painted my parents' bathroom all night, I got to my doctor first thing in the morning, and I got a doctor's notice and was instructed to not go under people for the next couple of days in case I was contagious. So I went home and phoned the receptionist at the office to tell them I was sick and I couldn't come in. He transferred me to the manager who told me I had to hand him the notice personally. No ifs or buts. If I didn't, I would get a write-up or worse. I knew he thought I was lying and that didn't sit right with me. In all the time there, I only missed work for 1 week, and that was because I had a broken foot. Yes, I worked in a coal mine with a broken foot. I'm not nearly as tough as this makes me sound. And I didn't like to be accused like that, even though it was only implied. By law, you're not forced to tell your employer why you're sick, only that you're sick. Cue my malicious compliance. I said sure, I'll be right there. I got into my car, drove to my workplace, and got to the office. My manager was in a meeting with some higher-ups in the company and I was instructed to wait. But as he heard I was there, I was invited into the room full of people in expensive suits who looked like they had serious business to do. Or whatever, maybe the cookies were good there, I don't know. So he made me stand in front of all these important people in the company and made me introduce myself to everyone with a handshake. I didn't protest, why would I? He insisted. I shook the hands of the manager of production and finances and development, everyone who was there, and I introduced myself. I'm sure it was meant to scare me into not having any false sick days anymore. Then with a triumphant smile, he asked me why I was there, and I pulled out my doctor's notice, gave it to him and said, "As you instructed me, I have to give you my doctor's notice in person. I got a bad case of stomach flu this night and just wanted to let you know I'll be sick for the rest of the week." Their faces were priceless and he pushed me out way too fast for me to really cherish the situation. My stomach was better by next week, and the rule about our sick days was lifted. Edit. Any idea if the suits had to personally hand him sick notes after about 2 days of flu incubation period? I wish I would know, but that information was not given to lowly apprentices like me. As there was no more talk of sick days and the rule was silently phased out the next week. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.